Alright, so I've seen The Conjuring Last Rites, and this is the final installment in the franchise, or should I say the Conjuring universe, especially as we have Ed and Lorraine Warren that saw their very last case, especially as this is marketed as the case that ended it all. And I have to say, I have some good things, and on the other hand, I also have some quite bad things to say as well, especially if it lived up to the hype, especially as it acts as a send-off to not only the franchise, but also to this couple in general, the paranormal investigators as we know them as well. So this will be my full, non-spoiler review, go over everything, my thoughts, and just my impressions, and they really nailed it with this very last movie, so let's not waste any time. And so, if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so miss on any future videos, including this. But now, let's talk about this movie. And now, when it comes to a horror movie franchise, and specifically speaking with The Conjuring, and even with the first two movies that are absolutely scary, and that's why they are so good, especially with James Wan, who we all know as a horror movie mastermind, that comes up with these ideas to make us feel scared and terrified, and especially, those movies delivered such good scares, and it delivered on the horror genre so much, and especially as we come to know Ed and Lorraine Warren, and for all the years, all the cases that they have solved, and especially, every case is different, especially as we know the franchise as it followed along, especially with the spin-offs that came from it, especially speaking of the Nun and Annabelle and everything that it explored. But especially when it came down to the last movie, Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It, and that's my least favorite movie, because especially when Michael Shevs took over, but it didn't have James Wan behind the camera. That's why it was a dip in quality, and it didn't even get me good, especially if they were gonna do something different with the scares. But yeah, that was the way it is. But when it came to The Conjuring Last Rites as a market, the final movie, and the way to do a send-off to this horror movie franchise, especially with this paranormal investigator couple solving this one last case, and that is the Smurl family case. And especially when it comes to the experience of witnessing the finale for how this all came to be, and it's especially for what reveals were going to be made, especially with the Warrens in general. And I think this was the definite feeling I had, especially from the last movie. But even though the scares got me good, especially from the story elements to how characters were handled, and specifically with Ed and Lorraine Warren, and those characters were treated nicely, and also for why this story revolves so importantly around Ed and Lorraine, because this is something that they've encountered from their past, which was the curse, and now they have ran away from it, and now it is come back to them, and now they have to take it down. Especially for this movie really wanted to explore story arcs and reveal more about the Warrens than we ever thought, because especially as we all know them, especially from The Conjuring, and now all the way up until now, and this had a very different feeling. And plus, even though I did like it better than The Devil Made Me Do It, but with this installment, things were a bit different, but to act like a finale and a send-off to market as the conclusion, and it really was good, but at the same time, it's just things were sort of unusual, that they tried to boggle in some stuff that I really was not a fan of, and it kind of felt like overstuffed as trying to tackle different points. But hey, it is trying to connect the pieces of what made this case the Warrens' last case that they ever solved, and especially, and I kind of feel like with this story, it kind of revolved all around Judy, because especially if you know the Warrens' daughter Judy, and that's why they had a daughter, and especially for when it comes to the Warrens, for what they have been through, especially with having a daughter, and what kind of danger it kind of puts himself in. Yeah, it just, it delivered, but just at the same time, it kind of feels like just like a not the magic or that horror-esque that I was asking for, because especially, I mean, I know that with James Wan, who served as the executive producer, but especially not with him behind the camera, it's just like it kind of felt like a real like dip just in the franchise in general. But it did have some good scares, ones that got me real good, but especially involving the real plot, which was the Smurl family, and for they explained for how they witnessed the curse that is in their house, and how they need the Warrens to go and defeat this threat. But and specifically speaking for how they explore the Warrens like one last time, just before it like ties a bow on this franchise, and yeah, like and that's like a way to say goodbye to it. For how they treat this as the last movie, while trying to give every single character their moment. On the one hand, it works, but on the other hand, it tries to attempt to do like so many things, and it makes this movie so draggy. Like, especially like I was like waiting for something to happen, and especially at one point during the movie, especially like where they do some like comedic bits there and there, but at points it kind of felt like too silly, because especially with the jump scares that all felt attempted. But even though I did quite feel scared, but at the same time it just doesn't have that James Wan flair that we love from the earlier movies from the franchise. I mean, this is why I love the first two Conjuring movies, because those two movies delivered on the horror and all of the thrills. And plus, I mean, those two movies like got me good, because it is unpredictable, it is right in your face. Those movies know how to do the jump scares at just the right time. But specifically with this last installment, the Last Rites, and I kind of feel like it tries to do too much. But it was a very good finale, especially from beginning to end, and even for how the third act went down, and especially for how to give these characters their send-off, specifically with Ed and Lorraine Warren, and for how things get resolved. Especially, I think it dives a little bit more into their history than we ever thought. That sometimes I think the franchise never had a chance to tackle, but I think I'm glad they did. But as we come to know this franchise as a whole, I kind of felt like that this movie does lose its focus on trying to focus on the main story, but I did enjoy it either way. Like, just I liked exploring the family for how the Smurls give their valid case in point to the Warrens, that like something that's like a supernatural is happening inside their house and they need their help. But just with the way of how the main groundwork is set up for how it goes down, especially in the grand finale. And yeah, on some cases I kind of enjoyed it, but even though in the final minutes of the movie I did like it, I think it got me emotional, and it is a really nice send-off. It really brings this franchise to a close brilliantly. It has a neat bow, but just like, yeah, I mean, it just didn't have that kind of flair that I was hoping for, but it did act like a very good last movie, especially as we know horror movie franchises that they try to do one thing but they just end up doing too much. Yeah, that's how I felt about Last Rites. But hey, and especially I think I really enjoyed Lorraine as more of the character that I never got a chance to explore, but I'm glad that they did. But I kind of felt like Judy really got the spotlight, and I kind of felt like from the beginning of the movie to how it ended, and I think they explained it all in the beginning, but it turns out like it was a movie that I kind of liked, but at the same time it kind of didn't feel like high stakes, but it definitely I like as like a good last movie that I definitely ended it all. So yeah, I guess my final consensus is I like Conjuring Last Rites, but I wish they would have gone back to the James Wan-esque horror flair. But hey, it wasn't James Wan in the director chair, it was Michael Sheps. But especially, like, I really hope that James Wan was in charge of figuring out for how to tie all the pieces together. But even though the jump scares got me good, but it was attempted at some of the worst possible times. They just try to do too much. I think it was like overstretched just to do it. And I think if they cut about like 5 to 10 minutes down the movie, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But hey, we got what we got, and I liked it either way. But it was a nice finale and a nice close to the franchise in general. So, but that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments down below, and if you've seen The Conjuring Last Rites, if you've seen it, give me a rating between 1 and 10. Tell me the highest in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to notifications about future videos. Also follow all my social medias, all linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.